We did not start the recording. So our next thing I would say is, as I discussed, there are different types of breath awareness and different practices of breath that we are going to go through tonight. And so the breath we did was a form of rhythmic hekau breathing. And we'll come back to this shortly. So what I want to say next is to talk about and spend about 15 minutes or so talking about our core idea. And again, forgive me for the hopping around with the PowerPoints. So we've entered our sacred space with a cleansing process using the breath. And now we want to talk a little bit about our core idea for this evening in this healing session. And that core idea is that everyone has a sense of spirit. And by spirit, we refer to the unseen sacred essence of who we are that integrates with the soul, mind, physical body, and all of creation. The photograph that you're looking at, the scene behind this text, is what's called a rubric text or kiosk that is outside of the entrance of the temple at Abydos. And the rubrics, or this kiosk, provides an overview of what the temple is all about. And so our core idea is paralleling that concept and is providing a sense of what our healing process is about tonight. And that is to highlight that everyone has a sense of spirit, this unseen sacred essence of who we are. And it integrates with our soul, mind, and physical body. Our sense of spirit, or the ideal of having a sense of spirit, refers to what we would call a sense, feeling, guiding consciousness, or the essence within oneself, a connection to, for some people, God, or something supernatural, perhaps the soul, faith, or energy. And this definition is a result of some research that myself and my colleagues, Carla Hunter and Dr. Aku, who's here online, have been doing, investigating the experience of spirit amongst individuals. And so in collecting data and asking people how they define their sense of spirit, these were some of the core definitions that were shared. Now, key to this idea that everyone has a sense of spirit is this hypothesis, an idea we have that when you integrate your sense of spirit, you're more likely to experience a sense of communal connection, mental health, and optimal functioning. And conversely, when you do not integrate your spirit, you experience a sense of disconnection, mental illness, or suboptimal functioning. And so this practice and doing the breath is what we like to call evidence-based medicine. We haven't compiled a great deal of data, right? Because spirit within Western psychology has not been an area of great importance, but we are going to base our own experience as a part of that evidence tonight. Now, in the field of African-centered and Black psychology, I want to stress that spirit is central to the very definition that this discipline utilizes. So in just where I have highlighted, it stresses that Black and African-centered psychology is a system of thought and action and examines processes that allow for illumination and liberation of spirit. So when we talk about practicing African-centered psychology and Black psychology, at its core, at its essence, we are talking about trying to illuminate and liberate spirit. And so our work tonight is a sort of hopefully wonderful example and experience of that for each of you, for all of us. And there's another sort of key concept amongst the definition of Black psychologists, which suggests that this field discipline recognizes that spirit, the spirit that permeates everything that is the notion that everything in the universe is interconnected, the value that the collective is the most salient element of existence, and the idea that communal self-knowledge is the key to mental health. So that definition sort of associates with this idea, this hypothesis we have about spirit, about our sense of spirit, that when we integrate it, we experience connection, mental health, optimal functioning. When we are disconnected from it or disintegrated, we have communal disconnection, mental illness, and suboptimal functioning. right? And that can be in the form of our relationships and interpersonal interactions that we have. All right, so I want to move along because time is going to go by quickly. So just a point that I want to sort of highlight, a couple points about concept of spirit, that oftentimes people sort of struggle with the concept of spirit because they overlap it or relate it to religion and spirituality. And in the research that we conducted, we asked people about how they define religion and spirit and spirituality. And in the philosophical work of Dr. Ashby, religion, spirit, and spirituality can be parallel to this idea that there is, in any religion or spiritual sort of tradition, there is ritual, myth, and mysticism. And those three aspects, sort of ritual being the practices, myth being the stories, mysticism being about the transcendent aspect of our experience or connection to that which is transcendent, can kind of correlate with focuses and emphasis on religion, focuses and emphasis on spirituality, or focus on spirit. And that the way in part to connect to those different aspects is using the initiatory practices of reflecting on the teachings or higher knowledge, listening to teachings and higher knowledge, and then meditating on teaching and higher knowledge. And so what's relevant and most important here is that most religions sort of only operate on two levels of this. They sort of place emphasis on ritual and place emphasis on myth, but often neglect mysticism, or many traditions may, particularly specialize in the mystic or mysticism level. At any rate, when you're focused on spirit, we're talking about accessing the mystic realm, the realm of mysticism that relates to the part of us that transcends, right? And one of the best ways of accessing that is through meditation. Just another point I'll stress is that sometimes people struggle, again, with connecting to spirit because of ideas and feelings that they have about religion or spirituality, again, which may or may not relate to or overlap to their sense of spirit. So, people can sometimes feel that they're both religious and spiritual. They might feel that they're spiritual but not religious. They may, be religious but not spiritual. And so it can be helpful for you to kind of sort out or sort of place those things in a proper place so that they don't interfere with your conceptualization of spirit. And so again, you may ask yourself, well, how might you define religion, spirituality, or spirit, and how are those things different for you? Okay. I'm going to just sort of lastly say that, so based upon our research and sort of working with the literature, we think of religion as a search for the sacred within a tradition, and spirituality as a search for the sacred, but not necessarily within a tradition, and spirit being the search for the sacred within oneself. And at any given time, these three things may overlap for any one person, or they may be something distinct. But we don't want any lack of clarity about your religion to get in the way of you accessing this sacred sense of yourself in terms of your spirit. Okay? And when we talk about the sacred, we might be talking about God, higher powers, manifestations of the divine, or less non-secular concepts and more secular concepts like, eminence, boundlessness, and ultimacy. Okay, is any of that making sense? I'm gonna get a amen or a yes in the chat. Okay, so I just want to say that from the African psychological perspective, when we think about ourselves, we think about ourselves as a manifestation of spirit, divine energy, life force. And there's an energy system, right? That's Safak Bara, that's based upon the precepts and the principles of Ma'at in that ancient tradition. There's some other similar systems, again, the chakra system, the Sum Sum by the Akan, the Ori of the Yoruba, the Prana by the Hindus, Chi by the Igbo and the Chinese. And so any one of these systems may have their own means of helping you access the spirit and access the breath. When we talk about soul, again, we're talking about those energy centers and how they make up the human constitution. They also correspond to different elements of our personality, way too much to get into tonight. When we talk about the mind, we're talking about, the elements of that relate to the brain in part, that come through our brain in the cerebral cortex, the central nervous system, that things that relate to or result in our senses, our thoughts and our feelings, and our body, those physical structures, right? and ear, nose, throats, and our extremities. So just kind of understanding that that's the constitution. And when we talk about integrating spirit and having a sense of spirit, we're talking about sort of bringing all those elements together so they work, and the breath allows them to work in a harmonized way. And that when we are integrated, that energy flows more freely, we function optimally, and when it's disintegrated, it does not. All right. Any burning questions? We're not going to spend any time particularly on question, but if there's a burning question or something I said that was maybe particularly not clear, you can put it in the chat. This is just a picture from this papyrus called the Papyrus of Guinea. Dr. Ashby obtained this line drawing of the papyrus, essentially sort of just showing the Safak Bara, the 7 energy centers laid out on these scales of Ma'at. And so I guess the next main thing before we do our next breath practice, talk about the breaths and Ma'at. So no burning questions. So a part of the Kemetic philosophy and this philosophy that is informing the breath process has to do with this notion of Ma'at. And Ma'at sort of was known as the goddess in ancient times, but really stood for a set of precepts or ethical principles. And these precepts and principles sort of governed life in ancient time, and they sort of allowed for a basis of values. And again, being connected to and integrating one's spirit allows us to be in touch with those values and to live by those values. And so Dr. Ashby in his work sort of just divided these 42 precepts of Ma'at, these ethical values, into these major areas of category. And he has a book that he published that recently in 2018, hieroglyphic translation, where his rendition of the precepts are articulated. But I took some liberty, oops, where did it go? I took some liberty to revise these precepts, which are aspirations to live by, declarations of intent for how one wants to live. And the reason these are relevant, again, because when we're connected to our sense of spirit, we're connected to what we value most. We have clarity in what's right and what's just for ourselves and others. And also, these values help us to sort of make judgments about what's not right in life and in society. And so the fourth revised precept, which I wrote as "I do not kill," right, would make George Floyd's death obviously something that was unjust. And we can get into this maybe at the end, or people can follow up with me with questions. But essentially the idea is that you can utilize these principles as a means of helping you when, you know, let's say you're someone who's been involved in protests. I know a few people on the call, you know, are activists, and you're at a protest and you're peacefully protesting, and you begin to see that there are people who are starting to loot. And you may feel, according to your ethics and values, that looting is not right, right? So the fourth precept that I have here is "I do not steal." But for someone who perhaps is oppressed, who maybe is not holding that as a central value, they may choose to loot. And if they're experiencing righteous indignation and anger and frustration, they may then choose to act in that way. But one of the things that the precepts can help you do is, if you are feeling rage, if you're feeling anger, if you're feeling like you want to do something to harm someone or harm yourself, you can utilize such values and precepts like this, or your own values, to help you sort of reconnect and realign with what's right and what's righteous, right? So that you don't let events like this horrific killing take you off of your own path, right? Or your own principles. Does that make sense? I hope I'm making a connection here. Okay, I'm going to come back to this. Okay. So any questions? Let's see. So I want to talk a little bit about the concept of spirit and the concept of spirit in relationship to breath. And see how we're doing on time. So it's 8 o'clock. Okay. So I'm going to talk maybe 5 more minutes, and then we will get into our more depth practice. But it's important to have some foundational understanding before you go into the breath, so that your process is one that is healing and not harmful. So this is a picture from the entrance in the Karnak temple in ancient Egypt, again, when I took on my previous trip. And this depiction or pictograph depicts 2 ancient figures, what would be called gods, and they're the same, and they are representing this god called Hapi. And Hapi was the god symbolizing the Nile Valley and the flow of life force energy. And in between these 2 personalities, there is the symbol of a trachea and the lungs. So if you can see at the bottom, there's the lungs, extending up is the trachea. And these 2 personalities are tying up the trachea and the lung. So this is known as the Sema symbol, which means union. And on the left, there is the papyrus plant that's part of the tying process. And on the right, there is the lotus. The papyrus symbolizes the retention of moisture, and it's synonymous with our higher consciousness. On the right, the lotus is symbolizing the ascension from our lower mind to our higher mind. So we're like coming up or emerging up out of the murkiness, the same way a lotus flower comes up out of the water. So this idea of these 2 aspects of the self tying up the trachea and using the lungs and the trachea is symbolic of the idea of union between our lower and higher self. So when we engage the breath, when we engage in breathing, we are engaging the process of bringing union between our lower and higher self. And it symbolizes the flow of that life force energy that we have running through us, through our psychospiritual, those energy centers that we want to open up. And those centers that get closed down and become dysfunctional when we have stress and trauma, as we have been suffering in these recent months. So we are doing this breath practice in order to help move that life force energy and to bring union between our lower and higher selves. Okay, make sense? So as I said, the breath can involve a number of different techniques. And the movement breath is one, the rhythmic breathing technique using hekau or words of power. But the most simple breathing and breath awareness technique is called the diaphragmatic breath. And this I like to use as what I call a breath assessment. So if you will, take your hand and place it on your abdomen. And many of you who are more advanced practitioners, you've done this before. And then you can place your other hand on your chest. And I want you just to simply observe your breathing, the natural flow of your breath at this time. And what we would hope for you to notice is that as you breathe, inhale, your belly expands like a balloon, or like comes out like a balloon. And when you exhale, it contracts in as if the air was coming out of the balloon or contracting towards your spine. So that form of breathing, right, where you inhale and expand out, and when you exhale and contract in, that's proper belly breathing. And ultimately what we're aiming for. So I want you to take a moment and notice your breathing. And let's just do a little assessment of whether or not your breathing is in fact following the proper breath. Is your belly expanding when you breathe in and contracting when you breathe out? So just take a moment and notice that. And then you can type in the chat, are you proper breathing? So you can just indicate, yes, proper breathing. Okay, good. Now, another form of breath that we utilize in following the African and Kemetic philosophy, is a 3-part breath. And again, both Dr. Ashby's sort of emphasize the practice of the 3-part breath. And this breath is also found, and the foundations are found in a number of different Kemetic texts. So this 3-part breath is another way to sort of diagnose and assess your breathing patterns. And we're going to do this breath for about 5 minutes. And this is going to prepare us for the more deeper breathing process that we're going to do for about 30 minutes. So the 3-part breath involves inhaling, expanding your belly, inhaling again, coming up to your chest, and then your shoulder blades, exhaling out, and contracting towards the spine. The way I guide this breath practice is inhale for a count of 2. Again, for a count of 4, bringing it all the way up to the shoulders, and exhale for a count of 8. So we're going to use a 2, 4, 8 count. So together we would begin, and you can either leave your hand placed on your chest or you can just have it on your abdomen. So we're going to inhale on 2. Again, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And when you exhale, you want to contract all the way down to the spine. So inhale on 2. Again, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2. Again, 4. Release, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale on 2. Hold, 3, 4. Release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale on 2. Hold again, 3, 4. Release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can allow your hands to rest, and we're going to continue. Inhale, 1, 2. Again, 3, 4. Release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, again. Release. Inhale on 2. Again, 3, 4. Release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2. Again, 4. Release, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2. Again, 4. Release, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. Again, 4. Release. Inhale. 2. Again, 4. Release. 7, 8. Now allow yourself to just breathe normally. And take in a couple of deep breaths and let them out. And then you can type in the chat what, if anything, you notice. So while deeper relaxation, breathing slowed down, peaceful drift, expanded, hopeful. Good. I didn't want to stop the breathing exercise. Good. Relaxed. slower breathing. So this breath is more of what we would call, you know, Dr. Cheryl Tawady Grills in a presentation this week, I think called it a settling breath, right? And it's more of a settling, calming breath, and the kind of breath that we want to use when we are trying to begin to sort of slow ourselves down and calm ourselves down. It also has a cleansing intention, as the other breath did. But this is one that's really good to practice when you need to slow down and feel a little more relaxed. Now, breath work can be extremely beneficial in causing you to feel relaxed and energized and joyous, provide you with a sense of clarity, focus, and concentration. But sometimes people may also experience lightheadedness, dizziness. You may feel sometimes painful sensations if you have, you know, back problems or tensions in parts of your body. There may be challenges in just holding your breath. You might feel skeptical. I had a session recently with an adolescent, and I invited her to practice to breathe. I said, now might be a good time to take a deep breath. And she said, you know, like, that's that kind of thing I don't like, when people, you know, try to get me to do something that I'm not comfortable with. And so I don't really want to breathe. And I said, you know, that's fine. So there can be a lack of motivation and skepticism sometimes when you're invited to breathe. When we're breathing and doing the breathing exercise and breath work, you may find that you want to engage in excessive movement, and you may experience tetany, sort of like a cramping or a tightening of fingers or different extremities. And so the breath practice that we are going to move into next is what's called, and what we describe as more of the breathing practices that can either involve rapid or slow, deep breathing. And this practice is going to involve a more rapid breath, what we actually like to call rhythmic breath, that we're breathing deeply and rhythmically. And the rate may start off a little more rapid, but it may slow down for you. It really sort of takes on a life of its own. So when we talk about this breath practice that we're going into, we are talking about engaging in a practice where you're either lying down or sitting comfortably in a chair where your back is straight. Ideally, if you're able to lay down, that's sort of the most comfortable, supported, relaxed position. And what I'm going to do is invite you to begin by doing deep and rhythmic breathing. And that deep and rhythmic breathing, ideally, it can be done through your nose. It can also be done through the mouth. And depending upon sort of the advancedness or practice of the breather, one method can be recommended versus another. The difference, generally speaking, open mouth breathing is not typically advised or considered to be a form of breathing that brings about health. There are actually studies that show open mouth breathing, sort of prolonged open mouth breathing, where we have, like, you know, nasal congestion, or somebody who has sleep apnea, where you're constantly breathing through your mouth, that can lead to ill health. But when we're practicing a breath practice such as this, a more active meditation, what that breath is doing is it's sort of getting oxygen into the body a bit more rapidly. And that rapid increase in the oxygen is what then sort of opens up the energy centers and promotes us having more extended states of awareness. So during the breath process, it's going to be brief, but during this process, you may experience, again, different sensations. And I put this in the release that you all signed before you signed up. You may have visions, you may see lights or colors. The key idea is that you be a witness to it, that you not become attached, but understand that if you return to your breath and simply keep breathing, right, you will be able to move through whatever comes up, right? That's the sort of simple idea that we have behind the breath. Now, you might find that there are some involuntary movements that your body does. That's fine. But mostly you're wanting to just allow yourself to be a witness to whatever occurs. So as we're doing the breath, I will begin it. You will get in a comfortable position. And then I will have some music accompanying the process. Music may be a little more active than what you're used to. And we'll play that for about 25 minutes. And then we'll come out of the breath and we'll do a check-in, answer any questions. If you have a piece of paper or something to write on after we finish the breathing, you are certainly welcome to write or draw or sketch any ideas and thoughts that you have. If at any point you are feeling uncomfortable, you become in, very intense distress, then I ask that you go to the chat and you send a message to me privately, or to Dr. Aku or Dr. Ojalade. Any questions? Okay, so I'm going to give you 1 minute to get to a comfortable position, to perhaps, if you can, lay down. Again, remove any distractions. If you have like a yoga mat, if you're laying on a bed, you don't want to fall asleep. But allow yourself to get relaxed and in a comfortable position. And so I have here with me an instrument called a sistrum. Can you see me on the screen? Yes? Dr. Aku? Okay. So that sistrum is just to symbolize the opening of our process. And what I want to invite you to do is to begin, maybe by gently just taking in a few deep breaths, inhaling and exhaling out. Allowing yourself to begin to get centered and grounded in your breath. And begin to breathe a little more deeply and rhythmically. So kind of consciously allowing your breath to go in and out in a flow of a gentle cycle. There's really no right or wrong way to engage in the breathing. Our bodies are our own inner healer. And so we just want to listen to the breath. And at any moment, if things become unclear, uncomfortable, just return to your breath. And at the end of the session, we'll have a few minutes of relaxation. You'll have an opportunity to write or jot down anything. And we'll have a checkout in our sharing. So breathing a little more deeply, a little more rapidly. Deeply, a little more rhythmically. Enjoy our brief journey. Breathing deeply and rhythmically. Deeply and rhythmically.
Dua kamu tef, dua amu. Dua kamu tef, dua ra. Dua kamu tef, dua teta. Dua kamu tef, dua om. Dua kamu tef dua amu. Dua kamu tef dua ram. Dua kamu tef dua puta. Dua kamu tef dua om. Dua kamu tef dua amu. Dua kamu tef dua ra. Dua kamu tef dua puta. Dua kamu tef dua om. Dua kamu tef dua amu. Dua kamu tef dua ra. Dua kamu tef dua puta. Dua kamu tef dua om. Dua kamu tef dua om. Dua kamu tef dua om.
Duanut Mutara, 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 Mutara, Duanut Mutara, Mutara, Duanut Mutara, Mutara, Duanut Mutara.
Do what you hootie. Do what you hootie. Do what you hootie. Do what you hootie. Do what you are, do what you are. Jahootie. Do what you are, do what you are. Jahootie. Nukujihuti, 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 Nuku, 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 Jahuti, Nuku, 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 Jahuti, Dua Shasheta, Dua Shasheta, Dua Shasheta, Dua Shasheta, Dua, 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 Dua Shasheta, Dua, 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 Dua Shasheta, Nuku Shasheta, Nuku Shasheta, Nuku Shasheta, Nuku Shasheta, Nuku, 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 Nuku Shasheta, Nuku, 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 Nuku Shasheta.
Dua second, dua second, hari ini aku jasanya. Dua second, dua second, hari ini aku jasanya. Dua second, dua second, hari ini aku jasanya. Dua second, dua second, hari ini aku jasanya.
So I invite you to begin to allow yourself to return fully, integrating your spirit, your breath, your mind, your body, perhaps rotating your neck, moving your shoulders, expanding and contracting your chest, shifting your hips, rotating your arms and your wrists, your ankles, allowing yourself to again be present in your physical space. Knowing and trusting that whatever you experience in your process is what you are intended, what your inner healer knows that you need. You want to take a few deep, cleansing, grounding breaths. If you have pen or paper, you might want to jot some notes down or thoughts, any reflections that come to your mind. Or if you have something to draw, you may want to place that visualization on your paper. I'm going to invite everyone to, as you come out or after you come out of your breath and return to a seated position. Again, trusting and knowing whatever your experience is what your inner healer needed for you to experience. It's a process of cleansing and purification of the residue, the impressions that have waited on your heart. The ideal is to experience, to witness, to acknowledge, and to release. Cleansing and purifying. Letting our residue be cleansed and released from you. So I will ask that before we conclude, everyone turn on your camera just so that we can have a quick check to make sure you are able to be upright and back in full attention. We'll do that at the very end. So for now, you can still have your cameras off, but just know before we close, we'll be asking for that. And just for everyone to check out as we make note in the chat. In a moment, I will share my screen again. Giving a few more moments for everyone to return to your physical space, awareness in your physical body. So reduce the music. So thank you for sharing in this experience. What we will do now as we prepare to move towards our closing, we'll ask a few questions to get a sense of where you are. So if everyone could just take a moment and type in the chat one word to describe what you are feeling now. See, relaxed, peaceful, at ease, centered, grounded, a little more present, connected to the body, relaxed, peaceful, pleasant, slightly activated, hopeful, peaceful and in touch, aware. Okay. Now take in a deep breath and you can exhale it out. I invite you to. And then to type in one word to describe your breathwork experience. What one word could you use? And it might be a little difficult to state a one, but what one word might you use to describe your experience in the breathwork? Illuminating, mindful, liberating, releasing, newness, intentional, aware, soothing, resourceful, challenging, some release, some grounding, refreshing, peaceful, energizing, anchoring. Okay. If you haven't checked in to the chat, okay, refocused. We'll ask that everyone please at least put some word into the chat indicating how you're feeling now or describing your experience of the breath work. Okay. The next question is, what do you need to continue healing? What do you need to continue healing? You can type in the chat. What do you think you need to continue healing? And you may not know right now, but if there's some awareness, you can type that into the chat. And you may want to note these words for yourself on your paper. Okay, continued connection, focusing, accepting new ways of everything, release and activation, more of this, more breath work, ways to stay grounded, practice letting go. I'm feeling grounded, but slowly gathering, ungrounded, but slowly gathering myself. Continuing to release, more consistent meditation, more breathing, staying connected to the breath. Releasing negativity, remembering, connected, continuing to be connected to others. Okay. I think that it's really important to be aware of how much, and as you all know, like this pandemic has, disconnected us from each other physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And so some of the things that we might normally tap into that renew us, we may not have access to. And one of the reasons we, are focusing on the breath is because it is something that we can access regardless of where we are or who we are with. And spirit, right? The breath, the spirit, is always available to us when we choose to connect. So lastly, on a scale of 0, with 0 being disintegrated to 10 being more integrated, right now in the present moment, how would you rate your sense of spirit, right? That sort of feeling, sense, the guiding consciousness, the awareness or connection to something greater than yourself. Okay, I see lots of 8s, 9s, 7s, good, 8s, 6s. 6s, 8s. Okay, very good. So at the beginning of this program, I said that, one of the ways that we think about spirit is that when we're connected to our sense of spirit, oops, here it is, going too fast. When we are connected to our sense of spirit, we experience a sense of communal connection, mental health, optimal functioning. And conversely, when we do not integrate spirit, we experience a sense of disconnection, mental illness, and suboptimal functioning. And so this exercise, is providing us with some evidence-based medicine for how simply by connecting through our breath, we can go from sort of these states of stress and distress that we had at the beginning of the session to feeling much greater sense of integration. So at this time, I want to invite you to ask any questions. You can put them in the chat or raise your hand. Again, if you are experiencing any discomfort or distress, you can type that in privately to Dr. Aku or Dr. Ojalade, and they will relay that information to me. If you're, feeling greater urgency. And at this time, if you could please turn on your camera, just so I can get a quick glimpse of everyone. Just really briefly, just need to make sure we are seeing everyone. Okay. Again, just really briefly. Okay. And if we don't see that someone has turned on their camera, what we will do, Darlene, I see here, is I'll ask that you type in the chat that you're here or you're okay. So if you're not, haven't turned on your camera, can you just type in the chat that you're okay? Again, you can send a private message if that feels more comfortable for you. And then if we don't hear from you or we don't see you, then we may follow up reaching out to you, email and phone or phone, as we collected phone numbers when we started the practice. Okay, great. So yes, I see a number of you are here. So any questions that you have? Closing reflections or remarks. Jamila says, was there any significance to the type of music that was played for the breathwork? Can you speak to what it was? Yes, thank you for asking. So the music that I used in the breathwork is the music of, let's see if I can screen share. So she's a member of the spiritual community that I am a member of, and her name is Tachia Ahmet, and she is a beautiful artist. I'm not able to figure out how to pull the Spotify up. Hold on. Okay, so she's a beautiful artist who, in a sort of previous rendition of her life, did a lot of reggae music, but she has embarked upon creating music based upon the Heka or words of power and of ancient Kemet. And so all of the songs in the breathwork today were songs from her and that she created, and this is the playlist. And so the music in part was selected specifically because it's African, it's ancient, the words are ancient. In ancient times, the Sunu or the healers and the practitioners would either chant or use the hekau or words of power, using similar words to the ones that she recited in these songs. And so I wanted to be authentic to these sort of Kemetic and ancient African practice. And so that's why I selected these songs and these tracks. And so they are available on Spotify. I think there may be a way I can make the playlist available, but I certainly, would encourage you, if you're interested. Again, her name is Chichia Ahmet, and this is the album that it came from, Blue Lotus Speaks. Does that answer your question, Jamila? Dr. Coddington. Okay. Other questions, thoughts, reactions, concerns? So while you're typing that in the chat, I will say, so following the breathwork practice, in the days, moments, and weeks to come, you may experience the breathwork integrating itself into your life. So whatever material and things that sort of came to the forefront of your conscious awareness, they may present themselves to you in life. And it may be important for you to then seek to further integrate that material. And a part of the integration process can be working with a spiritual coach, guide, or teacher, a African-centered, therapist who can work with the realm of spirit, who has some experience or background in working with the realm of spirit. And so you may have some things come up that are pleasant. You may have some things that come up that are a little unsettling. And so I encourage you to, again, be aware of that material, engage in breath, allowing and using it to help you regain a sense of regulation, and then to reach out if there is a need to feel that you need more support. So I will share my email in just a moment. Oops. There we go. This work, as we began in the beginning, stepping into a sacred space, this is sacred work. And when we're working with spirit, it's a sacred processes. And so I take it very seriously, whatever experiences that you are having or have been having, and mean it seriously when I invite you to, reach out if there are some questions and concerns, and if there's additional supports that we can direct you to. The New York Association of Black Psychologists website has a number of resources and supports for people. So I invite you to also tap into and access that as a resource. If there are no final questions, we are at the 9 o'clock hour, 9:01. And then we will prepare to close. Again, if you did not turn your camera on and did not check into the chat, please check into the chat. Just either texting me directly or Dr. Ojolade saying that you are okay. There was a question that says, can you repeat your definition of religiousness, spiritual, and sacred? Yes. I will just show you the slide with the definition of those three. Right, so religion being the search for the sacred with a tradition, spirituality, search for sacred, not necessarily in a tradition, spirit is search for the sacred within oneself. Okay, if there is an interest, and if I, receive requests to continue the breath practice, I certainly am open to, particularly during this time of stress and distress and the need for communal healing, I am open to offering this format again in the coming months. And again, if there's a need for some private or individual support, I invite you to reach out. There's a question, can you slow the slide on the parts of the body like the chakras? Yes, I can. This was a slide that I created back in 2007. And yes, I will make the slides available. So I'll make them available to the Association of Black Psychologists, and then they can distribute them to those who register. And this slide, again, was a slide that I put together based upon the work of Dr. Ashby and studying just some other African scholars, trying to make correlations between the energy centers and the psychological functioning and psychological imbalance. Okay, thank you. So you all are welcome to leave. I appreciate your support and just really pray for much healing. So Dana?
Yes, thank you so much again. A number of people have already expressed their gratitude, their thanks. I would like to add on to that. And thank you as well, Dr. Aku and Dr. Ojolari, for your support. I think this was a very needed event, and it's clear that people got a lot out of it and have some ideas about what to take away from it. So thank you again. Everyone, I invite you to keep in touch with us by joining our mailing list. I'm going to put just a link there, but as Ma'at mentioned, we will be in touch with slides and other information for you. Everyone stay safe, grounded, and centered. Have a wonderful night.
Dana, I just want to make sure we also save the chat.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, I'm going to do that. Okay, great.
Did you see my message?
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Hi, everyone. Please see the follow-up video that has been posted on our website. It's an interview that Dr. Ojolade did with Dr. Lewis about breathwork and its significance for us as Black people. So it's a good follow-up for the session tonight, and it's posted on our website.
Thank you, Rod. And I apologize. I forgot to announce that on June 12th, Dr. Ojolade will be doing a training session where I will be also doing some more breathwork practice. It's a continuing education program, primarily for mental health practitioners.
If you send us that information, you can get it out to participants and our mailing list as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So Dana, do you want to, when you end the meeting, it's going to give you an option to save the recording and to save the chat as well. So you have to make sure you look for that notification when you end the meeting. And I think it's better when you save the recording on your own computer, it's a lot easier to access than when you save it to the cloud in Zoom
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, it looks like it's just us now. Okay.
Yeah, I removed the other two people. Just I put them in the waiting room.
Oh, okay, great. Because at some point, okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you. That was very
you.
powerful. Very, very powerful.
Yeah, that was cool. That was
Yeah.
really, really
Yeah, I don't actually have any words for it right now. It was just very.
very much, Dr. Lewis, for that.
Absolutely, yes, yes. Thank you.
I didn't realize that you were a CUNY professor as well.
I am John Jay.
Cool. Yeah, I'm at Hunter and at CSI.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm at Hunter for my fellowship, and then I'm adjuncting at CSI.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. But I made a quick post on the website with the video that you sent as well, so that people can see that. And I think we're going to be getting some follow-up emails and stuff, so we'll forward those to you as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, and do send us the slides, and we will send those out to people. And also, again, please send us the information about Dr. Ojolade's event, and we can promote that.
I will definitely. Just an FYI. Wait, let me make a note of that. Okay. Also, so there were maybe 2 people. I think that Dr. Ojolade and Dr. Aku indicated to me that needed a little bit of support.
Okay.
So one of them I'm familiar with, so that I wasn't too surprised.
Okay.
No, so maybe it's just that one. Yeah.
Okay.
And then another one texts me privately.
Okay. Okay.
So generally speaking, it's good. Okay. So thank you so much. This was wonderful. And I'm definitely open to, doing it again during this period. So, if you sort of find a space where you want it to be, just let me know.
We can definitely do that. Yeah, we would love to.
Is there a, what is it, an evaluation or a feedback setting for a Zoom or no?
There's a way to do, wait a minute, because I was running into this for another event. They have a poll option, but I've never actually looked at, I think the poll is something different though.
Where you can, we have all the contacts for everyone who registers. So there's a way you can do kind of like a follow-up email, but it's not automatic. But you can reach out to people, and you could send them a form. I could create like a Google form for feedback.
Yeah.
Send that out to all the participants and collect data that way.
Yeah, if you're willing to help with that.
That's easy to do. I create a simple form and just email it to everyone who registered.
Okay.
And send you that so you can use that for the future and stuff.
When you create it, if you can just send it to me first in case there's like some specific things that I might want to.
Yes, definitely
emphasize. I'd appreciate that.
I would definitely love your help doing that.
Okay, you all get some rest.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, everyone.
You as well. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So yeah, Dana, just make sure that when you end the meeting that you save the recording and the meeting information, which is the chat and everything else.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna click end, but before I confirm end, it's gonna give me the option.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and do it. Yeah, so I guess we should probably meet Thursday, but we'll figure that out. All right.
But yeah, let's find some time this week where we can do maybe just a Zoom call for us, so I can share my screen and go through some stuff on the website with you guys.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to do that before Thursday or on Thursday?
Doesn't matter. If it's convenient, I'm pretty flexible. So
we'll just do Thursday since we're already. Okay, sounds good.
So I'll just need maybe like 20 minutes, half hour to go through that.
Okay.
Did you see I sent you an email with your login information for the website?
My login? Oh, no. Did you send it to my email or?
That would have been a while ago. And I created an account for you as well, Mary. Did you see that?
Say it again.
I created an NYABPsi account for you on the website so you could log into the website to create posts and stuff like that, and send it to you a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I'll have to look. I don't.
Okay, I'll resend all of that during the week and we can set up and do it on Thursday.
Okay.
But yeah, it's really easy to log in and create website posts and stuff. Because I just did one for the session that we just had in a couple minutes and posted it. Yeah. All right, so we'll talk in the week, right?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Right. And I mean, we usually meet at 8, but we might find another time depending on what works for people. So, okay. All right. Have a good night.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.
Dana,
Yeah.
I think there might be a way for me to save the recording.
Yeah, because when I click end, the only options it gives me is end, leave meeting, or end meeting for everyone. And because I don't think it's never given me an option.
Okay, let me see if it'll let me save it.
Okay. All right. And I did save the chat, but I was having some connectivity issues and kind of going in and out, so it didn't save all of it.
Okay. Wait, let me see. File. Okay. I think it's letting me save it.
Okay.
Computer. Hold on. Okay. So let me just Google it real quick because I don't want to lose this, right?
Okay, that sounds fine.
Okay.
Did you get it?
Okay. All right. So I have the recording covered. Let me check about the chat.
Okay.